What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today, I'm going to tell you all about the most unhinged mother-in-law in the world. I've got two posts for you today, but they are about the same woman. And actually, there are loads more posts about this crazy mother-in-law as well. So if you do go on to enjoy these two stories, then this may become another series. We've had Do It for Dan, we've had the most entitled family in the world. There have been loads of other characters that have seen extended stays on my channel. This woman here, Bat Crazy Betty, may be one of them as well. My mother-in-law hates me and says I'm not part of her family. Hello Reddit. I've been lurking in this subreddit for a week. I thought I was the only one who dealt with trash like this, but after reading some of the posts in here, it makes me feel better to know that I'm not the only one who has experience with the lunacy that is the dreaded mother-in-law. For a little context, I met my husband back in middle school. We were friends for a long time before hooking up in high school and getting married right after we were both 18. We were stuck living at my parents' place for around 2 years until we'd saved enough to start paying on an apartment. It wasn't anything to brag about, but it was something, at least. His mother absolutely hated me right from the jump. I've always been considered some kind of obstacle in the way of her and her son's bond. She never accepted me into her family. I was never invited to birthdays, holidays, or any type of family event for the first 9 years of our marriage. I didn't mind, as being within the same room as her for any length of time gave me the literal poops. I have IBS, so stress and anxiety really screw with my insides. My husband catered to this for a couple of years, until he realised it wasn't fair to me. So he stopped accepting her invites. This didn't go over well at all. At first, it was phone calls and texts demanding my husband accept that the tramp, me, is not welcome, and that he is expected to show up within the next hour or else. It then graduated to pounding on the front door, which went ignored, pushing handwritten notes through our mail slot, leaving notes pinned under the windshield wipers on our car, stuff like that. And they ranged from tame to borderline creepy and psychotic. This woman is unhinged. The stuff she would write sometimes made me wonder if she was crushing on her own frickin' kid. She can't love you like I do. I'm the best thing you'll ever have in your life. I miss you, baby. No, before you draw conclusions, she's never tried hooking up with her son. She's just overly involved and lonely. My husband's father died when my husband was a little kid from cancer. It was devastating for both my husband and his mother. She compensated with overly loving him and spoiling him to the point where she was emotionally and socially dependent on him. I remember when we were kids, if my husband wanted to go outside to play with friends, she would fake some kind of illness to get him to stay home. This went on all the way into high school. She wouldn't let him miss school as she believed his education was important, so she at least gets a point for that. But when it came to my husband's social life, she did not like it when he strayed away from the nest, for any reason. When I came into the picture, you would think that someone had died. Her world had fallen apart. Someone had swooped in to take her baby away from her. No, mother-in-law, I'm just here because your son is cute and he drives. At least that was what my thoughts were at the time. I was a shallow kid, don't judge me. It took around 3 years of us dating in high school before it finally hit me how much I loved this man and I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. We almost missed senior prom because his mother tried to sabotage it for us, but thankfully we were able to go and he proposed to me on the dance floor in front of everyone. I said yes. We couldn't really afford a big wedding, so we eloped to Vegas at a small drive-through chapel. When his mother found out, she pooped herself, literally. As she was staring daggers into me, she was straining so hard that the air coming out of her sounded like a drowning foghorn. She excused herself and went to go shower. Oh my goodness. We were hoping that once she cleaned herself up, we could have a rational conversation. Nope. The 9th circle of hell opened, and out came the most frightening demon, crawling on all fours and ready to pierce a hole straight through my skull. Oh no, it was just my mother-in-law, screaming at us, mainly at me for taking her son away. My husband tried to tell her that he loved me, but her screaming was so loud that she drowned him out. After around 10 minutes of the screaming, my husband decided that was all he could stand. He took me by the hand and started pulling me towards the door. She begged him to stay and to see reason that I'm just some tramp that had invaded her home and corrupted him. My husband didn't miss a beat. This isn't verbatim, but he said something along the lines of, "Mum, you're going to have to accept that I am a grown man now and screaming at me won't work anymore. I love this woman. She has been there for me since middle school and I fell in love with her. I married her because I want to be with her and she is the love of my life. If you can't love me enough to accept her, then we just can't talk anymore." And that was that. We left. I have plenty of other stories about this woman, but this was but a taste of things to come. Take care. And as I said in the intro, guys, there is another story to come in this episode. Wow. I mean, what a setup, by the way. That feels like the context that we need to now really dive into the story. Plenty of other stories about this woman, a little taste of things to come. I'm excited. She sounds just absolutely mental. Let's get into the first proper story about this crazy lady. Okay, so let's get into this second story. As I said in the intro, I think this has a good chance of becoming a series, guys. So again, let me know in the comments down below if you go on to enjoy these stories and want to see more. There is a lot more. Here is the second post. My mother-in-law tries to unalive me and sabotage prom. Thank you for your comments on my previous post. I appreciate it. That was mostly just background context, as I want to share even more crazy stories about this woman. I want to keep this in a timeline format, so I'm not bouncing back and forth over the years. I want to give her a nickname so it's easier, so I think I'll call her BB, short for Bat Crazy Betty. You know what, guys? I'll call her Betty just because I prefer calling people by actual names, but Bat Crazy Betty is a wonderful nickname. The stuff that happened before this story, mainly her screaming at my husband, who I'll call Dan, and me about how horrible I am, well, she hadn't done anything particularly bad up until that point. She did throw things at me and call me horrible names, but I'd let it roll off my shoulders, or I'd go cry into my pillow when I got home. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry. What a female dog. Anyway, on to the story. Senior prom. Quick trigger warning as well, this deals with attempted vehicular assault. I almost didn't go because I had a horrible flu that week. Dan was there to the rescue with lots of medicine, soup, love and cuddles. We often did this for each other when one of us was ill. We'd wait until Betty was at work and I'd sneak over and take care of him. I'd cook for him, clean up his house, even do their laundry just because I'm a good girlfriend. I have another story about when I decided to cook dinner for Betty as a peace offering. My parents were always too busy with work, so I was usually left to fend for myself when I reached a certain age. When I was little, we had a nanny. Dan was my savior that week because I woke up the day of prom feeling great. My mother had booked me appointments to get my hair, makeup and nails done. Despite my parents working 98% of the time, they still loved me and wanted pictures of everything. My parents' house is a shrine to my upbringing. Every wall is plastered with pictures of me of varying ages. I'm an only child if you couldn't tell. After I got married, my husband started getting included in the shrine. They are lawyers. Yes, they do get involved eventually in the Betty debacle. Oh my goodness me. I have a feeling there is so much to come here. Anyway, I finished at the hair salon about 2 hours before we had to be at prom. We went to Dan's house so he could get ready. I was sitting in the passenger seat of his car while waiting for him. Betty is there on the porch, glaring at me with her arms crossed like a bouncer. I'm ignoring her while scrolling Facebook on my phone. Dan comes out after an hour, and I look up from my phone and watch them arguing on the porch. She is pointing at me, then at herself. Dan is holding his phone out to her. I roll down the window to catch what is being said. Not verbatim, but close enough. "How can you choose her over me? I'm your mother." "Mum, please, I just want you to take some pictures of us together." "But you don't need pictures of her. I can take you to prom. We can get pictures together. I'll pay to have them professionally done. I'll get dressed while you take that tramp home." "No, you cannot take me to prom. You're my mum, not my girlfriend. She is, and she's not a tramp. Can you please take one frickin' picture?" "How dare you speak to me like that? No, I hate her. She's trying to ruin what we have." "What do you mean, what we have? You're acting crazy." I was flabbergasted. Ruin what they have? Creepy. I got out of the car, hoping to help defuse the situation. That was a big mistake. "And you," she points at me, "you may have your hooks in him now, but he will see you for what you truly are one day and come crawling back to me because I am his mother and the love of his life, you female dog." I had endured countless insults and humiliation by this woman for the past 2 years at this point. I had enough. I will admit that this was petty and a little snarky coming from me, but I feel justified. I was 17 at the time too. Sue me. I said, no, you are a psycho who can't stand that your precious little boy is growing up and you can't stop that. I'm taking your son to prom and we're gonna have a good time. Who knows? Maybe he'll get me pregnant tonight and you'll be stuck with me forever. Get over it, lady. I won. Yeah, it felt good to say that. Dan blushed and tried to hide his smile. He and I didn't plan on having kids for a while, but he used to joke about knocking me up so I couldn't leave him throughout high school. Don't worry, they were truly only jokes. Betty was absolutely gobsmacked by what I said. She did not expect me to say anything back to her. She turned and raced inside the house and slammed the door. Dan and I looked at each other and laughed. Good for you for standing up for yourself, babe, my amazing man said. We said we'll get pictures at prom and headed towards the car. Just then, the garage door opened and Betty was sitting in her car. She hit the frickin' gas. Thankfully, we were close enough to Dan's car. She swerved to avoid hitting it and left skid marks on her lawn. This F-nut actually tried to run me over. I could feel the frickin' wind blow past me. That is how close she got. I got very scared and started hyperventilating. The corset on my dress was so tight that in my panic, I thought I was suffocating. Dan went over to confront her and was screaming at her while she got out and went back into the house. While Dan was checking on me to make sure I was okay, Betty comes back out with a large glass of wine and throws it on me. My dress was a beautiful pastel pink with lace and silk. It was fitted to my body perfectly in a mermaid tail fashion. The corset was made with boning and a silk tie. It wasn't cheap. My parents had spent a lot of money for that dress, and now it had a massive dark red stain on it. I got into Dan's car and did my best to hide my tears while they argued on the front lawn. A neighbour had witnessed the whole thing and actually called the police. We talked to them and said we didn't want to press charges. I know, big mistake. We said it was a minor dispute. The police insisted we separate for the night just to calm the situation down anyway. Dan went inside and packed a bag to stay with me for the night. We went to my house so I could get cleaned up. My dress was ruined and there was no way we had time for me to put it through the wash. I said I no longer wanted to go, but Dan said that if we didn't, it would be letting Betty win. He looked at me, then said that the stain looked like it could be part of the dress because of the colours and that maybe nobody would notice. I give him so much credit for trying to be supportive and looking on the bright side. I always call him Mr. Brightside after the song because he has a lovely talent of seeing the good in everything no matter the situation. The man has enough optimism for the both of us. I love him. After a few minutes of fixing my makeup, we went to prom. To my surprise, nobody said anything about my dress. I was worried there might be a strong smell of wine, but thankfully nobody seemed to notice. I had doused myself in perfume before we went, so that must have masked the odour. There was a photographer there, and we got a few pictures together. I asked the photographer to airbrush out the stain. When I got the pictures in the mail later that month, the dress looked perfect. No stain, thank God. He had to airbrush out a lot of the lace, but he did it in a way that made the dress look just as beautiful. I had a great time, and as you all know, Dan proposed to me in the middle of the dance floor. He had saved money from his part-time job and bought me an engagement ring with a heart-shaped ruby and 2 diamonds set in white gold. Wow, I love it. I still wear it to this day, albeit I had to get it resized as I packed on a few pounds over the years. I said yes, of course, and we had a very nice evening. When we went back to my house afterwards, we spent the night passed out on the couch with the TV going. He had about 30 missed calls and several voicemails on his phone, and only angry texts telling him to rot in hell with his father, and another apologizing profusely for her saying that. What a peach that woman is. And yes, the prom picture is still on the wall of my parents' house to this day, right next to our wedding picture. On a day when my mother was home, she, my cousin and I dyed the dress black, and we had the dry cleaners make a few alterations so my cousin could wear it at her prom later in the month. Now look, she loved my dress, but she is 100% a goth. She was over the moon and she looked beautiful in her dark makeup and slicked back hair. My mother is a rock star. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'll be back with another story tomorrow. So there we go, guys. That is an introduction into the world of Bat Crazy Betty. Obviously, I can't call her by her real name for monetization reasons. This video would probably be demonetized if I said what I want to say and what OP has so beautifully and poignantly called her. But yeah, that's the beginning. Let me know. Do you want to see more stories about Bat Crazy Betty, Dan, OP, and who knows, maybe some more characters in the future, because as I said in the intro, there is a lot more here. This is just the first 2 posts of, from what I can see, about 12 to 15. So this can really become a series if you guys want it to. Drop a comment down below. Do you want to see more? I mean, I might just do it anyway for my own personal enjoyment, gonna be honest, guys, even if none of you want to see it, because that's just good content. That is just great stories. I mean, I wasn't expecting her to be as crazy from the off, trying to kill you. I mean, the fact that you didn't press charges there is insane. Who knows how close she actually was to you. Maybe she was just doing it as more of a threat to scare you than actually hit you. But getting in her car and putting her foot to the floor and driving towards you, that is very dangerous stuff. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot more to come. So let me know if you want to see more. And if there are enough likes on this episode, then tomorrow you'll see the next installment in the Bat Crazy Betty saga.